there has to be substantial studies of substantiate how much about 10 years back, almost two-thirds of the rural community depend on the fuel wood as a major source of energy. Even today, it has not changed much. Even today, if you look at the, I think 2001, 2011, after that, I think they have not done a kind of infrastructure, other facilities there for the rural people. Not only when such, what are you doing? What are our efforts to manage it? So some places we said watershed committee, some places we said biodiversity committee, some places we said watershed committee, some places we said water users committee. But these are essential, and also we have to empower the community. This is what is being done. But unfortunately, joint forest management should have logically given place to community forest management, which some states did, but did not do it very well. Did not do it well. See, we are very much, what is should I say? We are very much hungry of power and authority. Villagers who do not have a voice, we just simply think that we can do away with this. That is the kind of issue, and that has led to degradation of some of the common lands, and that has a direct impact on the economy of the such kind of people who are deprived, malnourished, and they're further going to be deprived and marginalized. That's the kind of issue.
So you talked about the commons.
Yeah.
And since we want to bring the discussion on pastoralist, could you share some insights on the pastoralist traditions and management of commons?
Yeah. Because you see, again, as I said, pastoralist, when we say, what is pastoralism? It's basically fundamental subsistence pattern that dates back to over 10,000 years. Pastoral, if you look at the history, as you rightly say, Virasat, heritage. Heritage, when you use this word heritage, it goes beyond just 100, 200 years, it goes to thousands of years. So basically, if you look at the earlier domestic animals, goat, sheep, and cattle. Pastoral economy is as part of that. Livestock used to provide them food, they used to provide them milk, and also dietary staples from this kind of population. So this is basically pastoralism is an economic activity which takes care of the heads of the domesticated livestock. Also, in this traditional form, it is either practiced as a main mode of subsistence or combined with agriculture. So agriculture, when you speak about agriculture, pastoral economy, say for example, we say agricultural economy is pastoralism. When you say it is agriculture plus livestock, it is not only agriculture, it is not only livestock. So it is a kind of a mix of this kind of, so agriculture and livestock. And for many of our village communities, it is integral part, as I said in the beginning itself. So these traditions are there. And it is a cultural system also. It is a kind of, it's not only a kind of economic institution, this is also a cultural institution. The whole issue of this livestock and the agriculture and the land management, these are all part of the, and even today you can see in Madhya Pradesh, for example, a few days back I saw some people were coming from Rajasthan along with the sheep, along with the camel. Madhya Pradesh is the adjoining border area. Western Madhya Pradesh is Rajasthan. So we can see that they know in such, it's a kind of integral. So they don't want, it's a, they are dependent. The livestock is dependent on them and they don't want to leave them. So for grazing and for moving, they also move from place to place. No, that is the kind of a tradition. That's the kind of history along with them. There are such communities who are not exactly settled, they are nomadic, but in a way they also go back to their own villages. So they have a cycle. Like produce cultivation, for example, was said, certain kind of thing. Shifting cultivation was there. Good and bad, a lot of debates have gone in and all kind of things I've discussed. But what is, it is a pastoralism functions not only as an economic activity, also as a cultural system with a characteristics of ecology. They do not want to, you see, you can see the why they are moving one place to place. Because if they concentrate only one place, that whole place will be cleared. So they They are conscious, like later on we, in the silviculture practices we keep certain places closed and the certain places open for the grazing. These people are clever enough that, if they want to go on using a particular resource, it is like tragedy of commons as Hardin long time, like 1968, a tragedy of commons when people, I'll give you the only a minute, I'll take it to explain why the tragedy of commons, what Hardin said. He said that, if every pastoralist or that agriculturist or that person thinks that I am clever and I can go on adding the sheep every year to maximize my benefit, and each one goes on adding one sheep or one goat or whatever it is, but the land remains the same, what will happen? And at the end of the day, each one of them will have the stress of not having adequate resources to manage that. So there is a theory that which calls individual rationality can lead to mass irrationality. Individual rationality, you think that individually I am doing something good, my profit will go on the higher side, but actually we're not doing good. So what they said, that was the Hardin's proposition, but people came out with a proposition, another theory, that if you recognize these communities' user rights and you give them a scope, they will know how to manage. They will understand. That is how pastoralists, their livestock and their land they managed by moving from place to place and also creating. And many of them still did not believe in the organic what is that chemical fertilizers, for example, uses these kind of pastoralists. So they could manage. And after so many years we have understood what is the implications of the green revolution and how so-called high yielding variety or high yielding production to infertile land. What has happened? What has happened? Now we have gone for short-term benefits and forgetting the long-term. So now what are you doing? We are coming back to organic farming, which our native pastoralists, so-called illiterates, knew it very well. They did not write in so many words. They did not theorize so much as we can do. But these community differ from others. They are only natural animal communities that is also subject to cultural control exercised by them. Culturally, they also control. That is the part of them. So pastoral community, that's for, as I said, it's more than a socio-cultural community. Economic institutions are there, religious institutions are there, and other, their regimes of management, conservations are also defined and managed by them. So therefore, it is called Virasat. Therefore, it is heritage. But we always ignored indigenous knowledge system. We did not bother about that. Now, again, it is coming back to us that no, you must respect. And you also understand, man and herd, their sheep or the livestock, they live in a symbiotic relationship. See, it's a symbiotic community. Pastoralists are symbiotic community. And this community takes the form of a village composed either entirely of pastoralists or some specialized agriculturalists, some kind of production or kind of. The pastoral village is found primarily in those cultures given or wholly significant degree of pastoralism. But pastoralism is part of our culture. And that's why when you define various kind of economy, pastoral economy also one of the most important part. And even today, with all the advancement and reaching sending the Chandrayaan in Moon 3, Chandrayaan 3 into Moon, all said and done, I think still there's a significant chunk in the villages. Even today, 68.8% people still live in rural areas. And they're primarily agriculture. We might say that now service agriculture is not contributed that much to GDP. We might say that service sector has overtaken the agriculture as the primary function and all that. But I think if you look at the people, they're still agriculture. And that's what I say now. Rice production, if you see, China and India are the highest production of rice in the world. And we export rice to many countries, and a lot of countries are worried when we stop exporting rice to many places. But again, who is behind all this production and all that? There are big farmers, but also there are pastoralists. There are also small farmers, marginal farmers, and most importantly, who are agricultural laborers. Neither they have land, but they are contributing to our economy. They are contributing to the production. We are now proud of producing so many million tons of food grains and all that. For whom? Because of whom? So those are the kind of things I think we should keep in mind while discussing about commons, quote unquote commons, or the heritage which we have, whether it is a pastoralist or whether it is forest land or whether it is water bodies. I think we have to, because essentially these are the three critical elements for our life: water, land, and forest. And in each one of them, the contribution of the community is excellent. No, I'm not again trying to romanticize. Again, you can fact check. You can do the statistics. I'm deliberately omitting the statistics part of it, but you can always quote that kind of thing. But they have significant contribution for their economy. They are significant for their survival. They are significant for their entire social fabric. Their socio-cultural life is woven around water bodies, woven around forest bodies, woven around agricultural lands. If you look at our traditional cultural festivals also, look at how they are related to our either agriculture or river or water bodies or the forests. Life is not only, surviving with eating or some kind of income. So life also is beyond all these things. We are talking about mental health these days. Now let me come to modern world, which is an issue. I'm not denying the kind of stress, strain, and all that. But look at these people. How many of them are suffering with the mental wellness? If you look at it, if you do an index study again, you'll find out that we are at the wrong side of it. But same people are being neglected. That's why I was very impressed when there was some book called Village Voices and the Collective Choices, something like somebody written, I have forgotten the names of author, because what has happened, these people, if given a choice or given a voice, probably they will come out with some of the very good principles which can be useful to us in management regime. We must, and that is what I'm trying to emphasize, that we should, we may learn from, that's what I was saying, unlearning what we have learned so far to acquire something new. And that's very, very important. And that's why I was very impressed, when Vijay told me, sir, we have to talk about SANGAM, that Virasat, and that too is so critical elements, the pastoralist economist or pastoralism, or for that matter, commons, for example, both are important, So for that, one is directly for our subsistence food items and other kind of things. The other one is for our survival, natural resources, forest, land, water, and all that, if it's not there. And we are talking about climate change. We are talking about global warming. We are talking about so many things, sustainable development goals, for example, we are taking. But do you think hunger can be reduced if you neglect these guys? Do you think quality of education will not be, if they do not have survival, where can they have the access to education? Basic rights and entitlements, if you don't answer. See, many people say now our GDP is, now we are going at the rate of 6.7%, something like that. So we are doing extremely well in the world economy, and we are from 5th largest economy, we are going to a 3rd largest economy and all that. Fine. Sounds good. You also feel good. Oh no, I am from India and this is happening. But at what cost? At what cost? Do you think that GDP growth has led to the development of these villages? No, there is the trickle-down theory does not happen here because of various things. Are you talking about access to natural resources for these guys, these people? Are you giving them user rights? As I said, it's not a private property. It's not you cannot leave it like open access that anybody can enter and you can do anything. I think we should empower the community. Then do they have access? Do they have entitlements? Do they have rights? Do they have freedom to speak something? Do they have the right to be part of the governance? We have created Panchayati Raj system, fine. But how much does it work? How much does it work at that level? So, have you done enough to integrate them to the governance system, governance structure? Have you given them a kind of power that they can use their rights and they have a access to natural resources and they can have access to the so-called Virasat, who actually rightfully they are the owners. Have we done that? That is a kind of critical question. I think that's why young students in different institutions, whether it is IFM, whether it is IRMA, whether it is TIS, whether these are the three prime examples I can quote, where people, a lot of students, young minds are being trained to understand these dynamics and come out with good. Because what is important, unless until we understand from the grassroots level, we cannot have a policy interventions. And unfortunately, these policy interventions are, like today only we are discussing how far is the statistics which are being portrayed are true or not, whether it is validated or not. That's another big question mark. So a lot of issues have to be solved. I'm not saying that we are not doing any progress, but at the same time, we are probably not touching the right kind of areas which needs our attention more. And therefore, this effort, I really do not know about your body, the whole body, but I think whatever you are doing a great job. You are talking about heritage. You're talking about a lot of critical issues which need to be addressed. And that's why I think we should be debating, we should be discussing. Most importantly, we should be doing some research. I think I am more, my tilt is towards doing more such action research and try to find out at the grassroots level what is the actual situation. And therefore, I would encourage, that's what I was trying to tell my faculty members today. Why don't you go to the field and do some kind of research along with the civil society organizations, credible organizations, not to be spokes or a spokesperson of the government as such, whatever, there are a lot of researches are done what government wants. The government wants to protect that. This is what is to be said. This is what is to be said. And therefore, a lot of government needs to get that kind of lucrative consultancy projects. That is not the reality. I think one has to, why are you ignoring? And another, in this discussion, again, another point I would like to highlight, somehow the civil societies also have not been given the kind of due importance as it should have been. Though an effort was made that planning commission may, now of course, Niti Aayog, we should keep some NGO representative and all that. But for the namesake, it was done. But are we going to listen to the policy papers being prepared by the NGOs or civil society? Say, for example, today I was talking to Rajesh Tandon, Dr. Rajesh Tandon, founder president of PRIA, Participatory Research in Asia. Participatory research, we are talking about participatory research, not, let us hear from the villagers' point of view what is important. Let them express. We are there to learn from them and to understand their dynamic, understand their philosophy, understand the way they have managed the Virasat. What is they have to say? That's for, methodologically also we did some kind of changes. We said that now we must do what is known as rapid rule appraisal, gave rise to participatory rule appraisal. Then we said, no, that is not enough. Appraisal we should not be doing. We should be learning something and doing some action. Therefore, it's changed to this methodology as participatory learning and action. No question of appraisal. You are not doing appraising the villagers. We are learning from them and also trying to draw a action plan. That's why the methodology is known as participatory learning. And it's very, very useful. It's not very scientific, and you cannot, for in the name of scientific longitudinal study, you waste your time. By the time you take your study, you publish, by that time the problem has not been solved yet, the problem gets aggravated. What is the point of doing such research if it is not of use to the community? Or if it is not used to the policy, making policy, what is the point? So it is important to understand, government makes policy which people do not understand. People want something which policy does not reflect. So what is the point?
Absolutely.
That is the kind of critical questions. I think there are young minds here. I can understand there are a lot of youngsters here present in the meeting, even without knowing them. I can guess that there are a lot of young people present here, and you are the future of the nation. You must devote substantial time on research, doing some kind of action research, try to find out what exactly the situation, even if it's small. This can be collated, and later on, I think we can have a forum where you can share, disseminate this kind of findings. And you should be proud of our work. We should not be afraid of anybody. That is the plan. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, I think now it is open for discussion and debates. I am open to any kind of question.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. You identified very interesting points in your discussion. And as you rightly said, why we are calling this segment of discussions as Virasat, because we are trying to understand. So sometimes Virasat is only understood as music, art, or buildings.
Yes,
And stories of some kings. It is never understood from a point of perspective of people and their institutions and their livelihoods and the management institutions of their livelihoods. Pastoral being pastoralist being or pastoral lands being one of the commons that have been used, as you rightly said, with a symbiotic relationship with nature, ecosystem, and environment. So the conference that we are organizing is actually talking about that, traditions of that. And I promise you that what we are wanting to do going forward is not just to limit ourselves with this conference, but going into documentation and researching of these institutions, management systems, traditions, and the living heritage which is there, which is also the theme of the conference this year, living heritage in agriculture. We want to bring it out in the mainstream and share with the wider communities, because it's a very, very important topic to bring about. Because as you rightly said, sustainability is very much enshrined in the use pattern that communities adopt, and they are the true harbinger of the natural ecosystem that have been inherited by us. There are a few questions. Nirupama Modwal is asking a question. Is there enough legal protection for their community right? Or if there are laws, do they have enough teeth? Yeah, over to you, sir. You're mute, sir. You're mute, sir.
Yeah. I had just muted. Now, I agree with you that Nirupama. Okay. There is not adequate legal protection for this community, unfortunately. Even when forest rights came, we could not ensure that they get the rights of use in the forest land. That's unfortunate. Though it was meant to be, or say, there was another act called Panchayat Extensions to this notified areas, no, they're not notified, it is called scheduled areas where tribal population more than 50% or 60%. So that also could not be done because we do not have adequate legal protection. That's why I was talking to our law student today. So why don't you document all these kind of things and come out with certain kind of policy papers and all that? And you know how good we are at not executing our laws. You see, look at NGT verdict and what is happening in many places. National Green Tribunal was established primarily to sort it out. There are a lot of violations of the environmental issues. So therefore, NGT was, but NGT has not been able to be very powerful entity to protect natural heritage. So that was another. So I agree that we do not have enough teeth. You have said teeth, no? Right, we do not have enough strength. I think execution requires much more stronger political will, which is absent. Straight away, I can tell it is absent.
Thank you, sir. The second question is from Surajit Sarkar. Any examples from the past that the Sky Commons have provided for livelihood and food security? Examples like this can provide young people on how commons have been very useful. Is there an example from the current times? Well, he's asking for an example from the past. And is there an example that newly available there on commons?
Yeah. You see, if you go back to the era of Rajas and Maharajas in the history, I think it was adequately defined that the community had the access to this kind of thing. In recent past, as far as forestry is concerned, we did create what is called Joint Forest Committee, where the members were from the villages and forest department. And together it was a committee. There are two types of committees. One was Forest Protection Committee, where forest is very high, the density is very high, and one is the Village Forest Committee, where density is low, less than 4. It was said in as per they said defined. So what was done that there will be joint forest committee and community members were there. They defined the user rights. No? They, by rotation, how people can send their cattle for grazing. They define, and also another interesting, they define also equitable distribution of resources. For example, Lohar or the blacksmith, he requires probably more fuel load. In government world, everything is equal, we'll say, but that does not happen that way. A Lohar requires more food than a affluent farmer requires a fuel load. So villages, we have seen some communities, they said this community XYZ family will be given more access to collection of fuel load because he requires more rather than a big farmer who does not require. So it is equitable distribution of resources is a very key issue. And for some of the forest community defined those rights and they allowed user rights. They also protected the forest by rotation. In Odisha, there is a system called Thengapali. Thengapali. I mean, there's a stick, it will be put in your door, and if it is in your door, that day you will be patrolling the forest area, the families or 2 or 3 people. So they had devised their own mechanism how to protect, how to conserve, and how conservation in terms of who can go for grazing, what to what extent you collect non-timber forest products or other forest products to be for the use, because so that sustenance of the forest resources is intact. That is the kind of was there, and it was recognized by the department for some time. And in fact, that is the time when we had recommended that it should logically go to the community forest resource management. It should allow them to manage that. They should have the, but somehow that did not take place. And now, and JFM, it started well. It did some consolidation, but then they did not do it adequately. And somehow you don't see this kind of committees exist. So on paper they're existing, but there are no user rights. That's the problem.
Thank you, sir. I think there's no more questions there now. We are also nearing, I think there's one more question. Any example from the fishing communities? It is such a large area of using commons. Is any example if you can give from how to management of fishing commons?
In this area, I have not used what is it called, but in Madhya Pradesh, in certain dam area, certain kind of communities, the communities where committees were formed, for fishing rights, which family, how much, this kind of examples are there. But I do not have the figures with me, neither the name, but and because I didn't spend much time on fishing kind of thing. But I believe there are evidences, and I can, if you can share your email ID, I will connect it to the right kind of people. And some of the good works were done in Madhya Pradesh. I don't know about other Pradesh, but I believe in Odisha also they have done well on the coastal lines. Some of my students who have worked in that area, they also can substantiate it. Also, I believe in Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and Tamil Nadu, they have done some work. But I cannot really share because I have not gone through the findings of those reports. So that is one area where I cannot share any data or throw any light because I have not spent enough time on that. But there are evidences that there are fishing communities also formed kind of communities, and also certain kind of user rights and what kind of user fee they have devised a user fee also. It is not that everything is free or something. They also understand that for certain kind of products you have to pay a price. They also understand. It is not that they're not. That's what I've seen. That they are maybe illiterate, but they're very quite knowledgeable.
Thank you so much, sir. This has been a very useful discussion, and we hope to continue this discussion with you. Now, Sangam Talks is going to be an ongoing forum in coming months and years, and it will be focusing on agriculture traditions, heritage, and about the communities there. Actually, since you mentioned about Green Revolution, I'm
Yeah.
actually joining from the Punjab Agriculture University in Ludhiana for this
Right.
talk, which was a hotbed of green revolution here.
Right.
And
Right.
in fact, there's a PAU is also the host institution of CIMA 2023.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are trying to talk about those subjects, that diversity of crops and cultures that you're talking about, so which is
Yeah.
also part of our ongoing discussion here. Thank
Right.
you so
Right.
much, sir. Thank you for your time. And this talk will also go live on our YouTube channel and other places. And we look forward to having you
Yeah.
again sometime soon.
Do share that link. I can share with my students here. But
Absolutely.
going ahead, maybe you can involve me, and also sometime you can, if you feel, I can provide you space. This university can also host you. There's not a problem.
We'll be very interested to work with you and your students, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.